Friday. How are we doing?
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Who wants to get us going today? Who's got some Friday fun going on in their lives? What do we got? Oof, that exciting, huh? All right. Amber's got something going. What's up? What do you got?
So my listing in Ocam, which is, out in the middle of nowhere, went under agreement. I need to get some sale pending or under contract signs. But anyway, I received a phone call from somebody who happened to pass by, which is not somewhere you just pass by, and want me to come out and do a listing appointment next week.
Awesome. So signs matter. But I think there's always been maybe just a gray area in my head about the pendings, right? Once the pending goes up, you're probably not getting a call on that property, but you can't have no pending go up because then it looks like you can't do your job. So it's a tough balance on when you want to put that pending sign on your listings, on your listing panels. You definitely want to show people that you can get the job done. So you don't want it to just kind of be there and then all of a sudden one day that sign just kind of comes down and you never put it under agreement, because I think the locals do take notice for sure. So at some point you got to get that pending panel on there. But if you pended it in the first week or something, I don't know, you might delay putting that on there a little bit, see if you can't get a couple of more sign calls or something to pick up another buyer, even though that the property's under agreement. Anybody have any thoughts around pending riders or anything like that you want to share? Story around that? So
I drove by a home the other day and the sign said "too late." I just kind of chuckled at that. I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, I've seen those. Those are fun. I've seen a lot of fun riders, and I think having a little bit of fun in the real estate game. I think it puts a smile on people's face, and I think it shows your character. If that's the kind of agent that you are. I've seen, like, on smaller properties, better than your mom's basement, little pending, or a little rider that goes on the sign. I've seen some fun stuff. So anybody seen anything else, or anybody using anything that's clever that just makes you smile and maybe is making others smile? All right. Any other sign questions while we're on the sign topic? Any weird sign stories, shares?
I've had a sign installed at the wrong house. People freak out. The
Yeah.
person whose lawn the sign went up on.
Yeah. That typically happens within the first couple of years to anybody that's doing this on the regular. If you're listing a lot of houses, at some point the sign guy is going to mess up. If you've got a sign guy, if you're doing your own signs, then obviously, hopefully, you know which properties to put it on. But yeah, if you're using a sign company, it's inevitable before it ends up on the wrong property. Any other shares or questions around signage? All right. Who else has got something good going on in their life? Who's got some positivity?
The Big E opens today.
Oh, that's not a positive thing for me. That is not a positive thing. I can't stand the Big E. I can't stand the traffic.
Well, talking about the Big E, we did a phenomenal job getting it out there because we had a record response to the Big E giveaway, which is way higher than we've ever had in the past, which is incredible. It was like something like, I don't remember, what was it, a couple hundred people? And like
on the con?
Yeah, it was over 800, I think.
I was going to say 800 people, but I didn't want to put my foot in my mouth. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Good job.
A few of
Yeah.
my people had contacted me because the spammers are still out, telling them to click a link. So luckily they messaged me first.
Yeah, mine too, Amber, my sister, and a couple of my clients.
Same. I had someone reach out to me and ask if they had pulled winners yet, because she got a notification that she won yesterday.
Hey, I think this is one of those good news or bad news. Our name is getting out there. Hopefully people know by this point, if you're on Facebook on the regular, that's how those scammers work. But, I think taking this stuff serious about getting opportunities to talk to your database, to say, hey, we're doing this giveaway. I hope you win, whether they win or they don't. The goal for you guys is just to be top of mind with your people, whether they're a past client, they're in your sphere, they're somebody that you're working with now. We've got to stay top of mind in the monthly events and giveaways is one of the easiest ways to do it. KB.
Yeah, actually, I didn't even know why I didn't think about this. One of the clients that she got a winner. I think it's usually pretty easy to just shoot someone a text because that's what I did with my sister. I was like, no, it's not real. But with this particular person, I hadn't talked to her in a while. So I was like, wow, she just reached out to me because she thought she won. I could send her a text right now and be like, no, sorry. Or I can call her. So I actually just called her. And I was like, hey, Kathy, I'm like, it sucks. This happens all the time. The spammers, whatever, what's going on with your life? And come to find out that when I sold her the house, they were having a baby. It's a multifamily. And she moved her mother in upstairs. And they're having another baby now. And they're thinking about buying a single family for them and moving her brother into this house. So I set her up on a search, and they're not quite ready yet, but they will be in a couple months. So it was just an opportunity I probably wouldn't have had. Maybe I would have, I don't know. We had a good relationship, but I have not followed up with her. So use the negative thing to have a positive conversation.
Yeah, love it. Love it. So, if you guys you're out there and your database isn't in the CRM and you're not putting these things out there, I mean, this is the type of stuff that you're missing out on. It's just the random interactions of keeping yourself top of mind. Who else has got something? Doesn't have to be positive. Sue, what do you got?
It's off the subject, but I showed a buyer yesterday and she was asking if she should sell her property so she can avoid capital gains to buy this new home. And I just, told her to speak to her accountant about that. So any thoughts
I mean,
around?
just the general rule is you can, per person, you can make $250,000, I think it is, on the sale of your primary residence. So there's not going to be any capital gains. I think you have to have lived in it for 2 out of the last 5 years. If that's not the case, so if it's not a primary residence or you haven't lived in it for more than 2 out of the last 5, then doing a 1031 is your next best option if it's investment. So that's where you are. Let's say you're in a position you're going to make $200,000 on the sale of the property. It's investment property. Instead of paying the capital gains tax on it, which is probably going to be 25%. What is that? $50,000 on the gain. You would roll the 200 into the new property. So you buy a $500,000 property, you roll the 200 into it. You got a mortgage for 300, and now the government didn't get that $50,000. It went towards the down payment of that new property. So that's the general basis behind a 1031 exchange. You're using the money to put into another property instead of giving it to the government. Eventually, you 1031, eventually you're going to sell the property and pay. But it's a great way to leverage the money now where you don't have to pay those taxes. So I don't know if anybody wants to comment or ask any other questions on the 1031 process. Anybody have a share around it, have a client that uses it a lot? Go ahead, Sue.
So she could buy the condo cash without selling the property. So she's just kind of bouncing what's the best way to do that. So it's a
Uh,
primary resident, and she would buy the condo cash, but and then
so
sell her
she
property. So she doesn't know which way she wants to go.
so she owns a property that she's lived in for more than 2 years as her primary residence.
Correct.
Yeah, and so she's not going to make more than 250,000. I don't think it's going to make a difference whether she sells that and then buys, or buys and then sells that.
Okay.
Yeah, obviously she should talk to her accountant, but I don't see why it would matter, the order there. And then if it's a couple, then it's up to 500,000 on the primary residence. You each get a $250,000 grace. So what you'll see some people do, especially in their younger years, is they are buying, fixing up, living in it for a couple of years, right? And then let's say you make $100,000. If you make $100,000 at your job, you pay taxes on it. If you make $100,000 on that house, you don't. Right? So you're keeping that money in your account. So you'll see some people that's their plan. Every 2 to 3 years, they're buying a property, they're living in it, fixing it up, they're selling it, they're making a profit. No capital gains. Do it again, do it again, do it again, maybe until you're ready to settle and have a family. But that is definitely a strategy. Anybody have any thoughts or questions around that process? Okay. All right, who else has got something going on? Experience, share, question on something, learn something. I've been looking at this. Raise your hand if you've heard of a DOPA menu. Anybody heard of a DOPA menu? Nobody. All right. So a DOPA menu is it's a dopamine menu that is basically created just for you. And so obviously we understand, or I think hopefully most people have a basic understanding how dopamine, it's a pleasure hit to your body. And that's what's happening with a lot of the social media is you scroll, you get a hit, you scroll, you get a hit. The algorithm learns every one is something that you like, and you're getting these hits and you get addicted. And so you stay on the screen. So the dopamine or DOPA menu is a menu, just like you'd see at a restaurant, of different things that you can do to get that hit that aren't necessarily bad and addicting, that they're actually positive hits for your life. And you would customize this. So everybody's DOPA menu would be a little bit different. But I think it might be worth doing a little chat GPT on this one and trying to understand what the different areas are and what are good hits for you. So you might have appetizers. So these are small, quick fixes that you're just in a funk. And what are some little things that you can do to get a dopamine hit, right? So is it a 5-minute meditation? Is it I'm going to organize my desk? Is it I'm going to, cuddle with my pet? Is it I'm going to do some jumping jacks really quick? Is it going to just listen to my favorite song right now? It's just something. So appetizers would be these quick little hits of dopamine. And again, it's going to be different for everybody, so you have to play with it. And then you'd have your entrees. These are bigger, longer lasting menu items. So that's for a walk, cook a meal that you love, watch a movie that just, really, it's something that you love, or it's a series but something a little bit longer. What else? Sides are, again, kind of some little things: light a candle, diffuse some essential oils, listen to a podcast, call a friend. Desserts, these are the tasty but in moderation. Scroll your social, order takeout, binge watch a show. And then the specials. So these are occasional splurges: book a vacation, see a comedy show, redecorate a room, random act of kindness. I guess just the point is to have healthy things that you know you can turn to, depending on what your needs are. So what are those things that you're doing for good dopamine hits on the regular that are long, that take a little bit of effort, a little bit of planning? And then what are those things that you're going to when you're in a funk? So it's pretty interesting concept. If you utilize a service like ChatGPT or Perplexity or something, to just, hey, I want healthy versions of these different types of menu items. Just see what comes out. Pick the ones that you like. Hey, you know what? That does bring me joy. And that is a good way for me to get out of a funk. And then just keep them on a notes app or something on your phone that when shit's not going right, you got a place to turn to instead of going to, social. You're gonna end up on the desserts, right? Sugary snack, sugary drink, social media, right? So we want to have something that we can turn to, a menu of items that we know that's been pre-curated that fits us. So hopefully that, spend a little bit of time on that, have those go-tos, and hopefully be a little bit happier, a little bit healthier. Anybody have any questions on that stuff? For those of you with kids, tell your kids you have a dopa menu now. Maybe the kids will know about the dopa menu. I don't know, but it came across one of my blogs. So I was like, this is a really good idea, because I think most people are just haphazardly going about it and probably turning to the desserts most of the time. Let's pivot back to real estate. Somebody's got to have something going on. I had jotted down some issues that we're having on some deals with special assessments. Condos. We got one deal where we've got a unknown upcoming assessment, right? So the seller has an assessment that's coming from the condo, but they don't know how much it is, right? We've got the buyer. How do we handle that situation? We don't know if it's going to be $1,000 a unit. It's going to be $10,000 a unit, right? It can make it difficult to move forward on a transaction like that when the buyer doesn't want to, move forward when they don't know exactly how much. So when you're in those situations, I think the only thing that you can do is you got to wait until the association can figure out what is it looking like. What's the ballpark? I don't need the exact, hey, it's going to be $500 a year, for $600, $50 a month that we're going to assess everybody. I don't need to know the exact, but I need to know, hey, it looks like to pave the parking lot, it's going to be $50,000. We got 50 units. Everybody's going to get assessed $1,000, and we're going to collect it over 3 years, right? So it could be as much as 60,000, could be as little as 40,000, but we think it's going to be around 50. So we think it's going to be X number of dollars a month, right? Then now we're in a reasonable place where we can make a decision as a buyer. KB, you had your hand up.
It didn't have anything to do with that, the special assessments. However, it's interesting that you brought that up, because it was a conversation I was having last night with my father-in-law, that they're in the process of looking at condos in Naples. And apparently this has been a really big issue in Florida with condo units, with the HOAs and their master insurance policies increasing significantly, and not knowing what that's going to look like for the current owners and the owners that are looking to purchase. Jocelyn, did you have something that was around that topic?
Yeah, it's something I've actually run into a few times now, and one that I'm actually meeting with a client today. He had a very, very big issue with his unit. He was trying to sell, I believe it was just north of Naples, but it's to where those like assessments in the background where they're just kind of pending. What I end up having to do is scour through the meeting minutes, because if there is any talk of it, or if we know that there's anything coming, we can always see that. But another thing that I've ended up chatting with them in the past, we ended up working it out a different way, but just negotiating it ahead of time, saying like the seller you know, even post closing, seller agrees to pay X amount of the assessment up to a certain amount, and then the buyer will take over payments or, you know, pay the rest or whatever after the fact if they can get kind of a ballpark of where they think it's going to be. But it's really, really causing us a headache down here because I feel like most condos, they have something coming, because like whether it is that they had to replace all the roofs for insurance, or, you know, there's major flooding and stuff that we're seeing down here. So the roads are getting really bad. It's just, I feel like we're seeing it more and more and more.
Yeah, I think when you're in these difficult situations, this is time to step up, get creative, and put deals together, right? Like if you don't know the number, but we know, you know, the seller's willing to throw 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 at the problem to just say, hey, we don't know the number. I'm sure the condo association be willing to take your money ahead of time. And you know, we could get a seller to prepay, you know, 20,000 towards the assessment, even if it hasn't been negotiated. You know, typically I would think there's going to be something that we could work out with the condo association to get those monies into an escrow account, or, you know, even in, maybe it's going to go into their operating account, and, you know, the first 4 or 5 years will be taken care of. So just try and get creative, see if we can get, you know, if we know we've got a seller that's willing to play ball, and a buyer that, you know, really loves the property and is willing to at some point have to pay something, or maybe not. Maybe the seller's going to, you know, pay extra and say, hey, look, I'm going to give $20,000 to the association. If it ends up being 10, you know, we strike a deal where he'll get that money back at some point. So every deal is going to be different. Every condo association is going to be different. It's just trying to figure out what can work for both parties. Any other assessment questions or assessment stories or shares from a deal that you've done? Pat?
I got one under right now, and the HOA fee was $260, but the place has only been in existence for like 2 years, and it used to be $205. Apparently, the builder, when he built the place, he made the HOA opt into this almost like a renter's insurance. So it wasn't just the master insurance. He made them buy to cover if there's anything that happened to any of the units. The owners of the unit's personal property would be covered under the insurance as well, which is definitely different than what I'm used to hearing. Usually you got to have your own renter's insurance or whatever for personal property inside. And one of the units actually had a fire. And so that person's personal property was covered. And now the insurance company has added, you know, they had to up their fees for every unit because the insurance went up. So basically what they did is when I just got it under, the agent called me and said, hey, listen, all the other owners are voting in January. They're going to try to get rid of this type of insurance that they're using, and they're going to go for another insurance. And so the HOA fees may actually go down. But if they don't vote a yes to get rid of that, then they're probably going to go up again to like 275 rather than 260 next year. And so that was something interesting I never heard before. All the way around, like having insurance cover inside personal property as well as just HOA fees going up and down and fluctuating depending on who you have. So just wanted to throw it out there.
Yeah, that's a great share. I've never heard of that either. Either of those, HOA fees going down or insurance covering personal property. I actually did insurance adjusting for 2 years right out of college. So we would deal with a lot of condos and, you know, water break or fire, and the master and policies. It was always studs in was the unit owner's responsibility. I mean, I can't even remember a time where it was anything different. Studs in was that's what your HO6, your condo policy, would cover. Justin, your hand's still up. Was it just lingering, or did you have something else?
Sorry, I didn't turn it off.
All right, who else? Scrolling through to see if it's been coming through some of the chat channels or anything.
Well, while you're looking, I have another little comment. So, over the past couple weeks, I've been kind of looking at houses for kind of myself, right? And what I've noticed is that agents are super, super, super appreciative of feedback, especially now, because every property that I've looked at, in my opinion, it was overpriced. I was able to look at some comparables. Most of them have been on the market for a while because they're a little unique. But I was able to talk to a couple higher producing agents in our area that have these listings, and they're like, my sellers are kind of stuck back 2 years ago, and they had put it on the market. Two of them actually were FSBOs that were on the market 2 years ago, and they had gotten offers for a ridiculous amount of money, and they're just not understanding why their properties aren't moving, even with the 50K price drops that they've already done. So I just want to make sure that everyone knows, number one, pay attention to days on market. If they've got a lot of days on market, know that that list agent is probably struggling, and you giving them the feedback and even maybe just making an offer that is realistic to your client might be worth it. And two is, when you guys are having conversations with your sellers, make sure that you're showing them this data. And I talk about it all the time, but like, know how to pull days on market, because I was talking to another family the other day, and they said, oh, my neighbor sold their house for $425. So I'm going to put my house on, and I want to put it on at $375. And it's not worth that, right? But I looked at the house, and they sold that house in 2022. So it's like, people just don't understand sometimes that things 100% change. So us as agents, we have to be able to educate them and show them the data, and don't be afraid to give negative feedback in a polite way, because it's helpful to the agents. So just a little thing I thought of.
Yeah, just on that point, just when you're pulling the data, you can go back. I'm not sure if every single MLS allows this, but I'm assuming most of them do. You can go back and get, what was the days on market in 2022? What was it in 2023? What was the list to sell price ratio? Right? So when you're coming in and you're going to be delivering some negative news, this is the first time we're seeing a slowdown in a while, right? They've talked to somebody else that sold something. Most people have. So you need to have the data to say, yep, yeah, I'm aware of that sale, or I'm aware of how it used to be, and here's the data. It used to be 102% of list price on average. Now it's 95% of list price, right? It used to be 3 days on market. Now it's 63 days on market, right? This is the market that we're in, and we can't go by what the market used to be. But having the data just makes that conversation so much easier. Jeff and Linda?
So two things. First, we pull that data and take it to all of our listing appointments, because to your point, people are very stuck in what was happening in 2022. And the sellers, they just cannot wrap their brains around that's not what is happening in our marketplace today. And you telling them is not enough. So we always pull that data and show it to them when we are discussing with them what the 3 pricing strategies. So they have to have that visual. They have to see it for themselves. It's not enough for us to just say it out loud. So I'm in complete agreement with you. The next thing that I wanted to talk about is how critical it is for us as professionals to provide feedback on the showings that that people are kind enough to, get their homes ready for. Those sellers are just hanging or just waiting to hear what these potential buyers thought of their homes. And for us to not provide feedback in a timely fashion is no good, not at all. I have had a couple of instances where we've got these buyers who think their home is just a dream, and they cannot get over the fact that, well, it doesn't matter that, their bathrooms need to be updated in the kitchen, right? So they need to hear it from the buyers who are coming through their home, and not just from us, that these are real issues. So we had people come and do these showings and then not provide feedback. And I gave them 24 hours. and sent a request, did not get a response. I literally got on the phone and begged. I said, I am begging you to please take 2 minutes to provide any feedback. My sellers need to hear what your buyers thought of this home. And they still did not provide feedback. And to me, and this, in all honesty, this is from one of the top, what's considered one of the top companies down here. This is the response or lack of response that I got from what's considered the, the creme de la creme down here. It happened twice. 2 separate agents from this agency who just didn't feel that it was worth their time to even respond. And I literally begged. It's everything to our sellers, and they need to have this third party, validation, right? If we're going to make any headway with them in terms of them appreciating what we are telling them about the status of their home and why it is not selling. And so it's just critical to take 2 minutes to provide that feedback. And because, when you're when the shoe is on the other foot, it's such important information.
Yep. Doing the right thing here is always the right thing. It's totally a karma thing. And the more that you can do this stuff, it's definitely going to come back around, especially when you need it. And it can be ultra frustrating because, the industry is filled with a lot of non-professionals. And I've said it many, many a times, but I think this industry is going to get cleaned up, and we're going to be dealing with more professionals as we move forward. And I'm really excited about the future, because I think it's going to be, most of the business is going to be done by great agents, professional agents, and hopefully, the feedback starts to get fiddled out and we have better relationships, and we're working better together. So I'm excited about the future of the industry for sure. So appreciate you guys all hopping on a Friday, getting your Friday started right. Hope you have great weekends, and we'll get back after on Monday morning. Hopefully lots of wins, lots of positivity over the weekend. All right. Take care. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Take care, everybody.